Hey everyone, this is your weekly episode of the Zephyr podcast where we talk about all things Zephyr, embedded open source, and lots of other cool stuff. I'm Benjamin, your co host.
Hey, and I'm Fabio, the other co-host. So it looks like my subsystem is taking over the basic samples. How about that?
What's that? What's your subsystem?
Yeah. So a bit of context. I maintain the input subsystem, which has a few input driver, including the one for buttons with debouncing. Historically, Zephyr had a few basic samples. They're basic because they live under samples basic. And one of those was the button sample. And one of the complaints we got quite a few times from a first timer was that the button sample does not debounce button. So it was effectively a GPIO interrupt sample. And yeah, after many reminders from the contributor, I ended up pulling together a pull request to change the sample. And it now, the one in basic buttons actually uses the GPIO button driver and it does the bouncing. So if you're a first timer and you're trying to see the proper way of doing a button in Zephyr, that's it. The old one still.
Yeah, right. I guess define proper, because I could imagine that part of the uh, historical history behind like the basic samples is that they are meant maybe to be minimal, as in like minimal footprint, minimal sort of like overhead in terms of actually don't want to put in extra subsystems. But I mean, there's also basic in like, I mean, it just works and it leverages whatever makes the most sense.
The basic stuff.
The big question is like, what's the overhead actually of the input subsystem?
Yeah, well, quite a bit, of course, but yeah, obviously the question is what is the philosophy behind those samples, right? So the previous thinking was, yeah, they should be minimal. Like since they live in BASIC, they probably shouldn't use any subsystem. But then if you're using Zephyr, you are using the subsystem, and if you're using a button, you should probably use the debounce driver. In the same way, in the same driver, while I was messing with it, I also changed the LED code to use the LED subsystem. So now the question is, are we going to change the Blinky sample to use the LED subsystem?
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Yeah, well, then, I mean, you sort of just made the point that it maybe wasn't a basic sample anyway, because it's like it was showing more than just, hey, here's how you do button stuff. It was actually also like if you press the button, it turns the LED on, which it did through a GPIO. Like
I don't think it was on basic. I think it was on button, but rather it was GPIO interrupt. So that code still lives in drivers GPIO interrupt now. So we'll see. You have both.
But yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. No, this is a good good way to sort of like, and a good reminder that that the samples we have, probably many of them showing the basics, but showing the use case and like what is sort of like the recommended subsystem you should pick for this and that. Maybe we lack a few of those.
Yeah,
So.
I think there's value in that. Yeah. Anyway, so what's going on in Zephyr this week?
A lot. Definitely, we're well into, I mean, we are out of vacation mode. There was an RFC that I don't remember when it came in, maybe over the holidays, but even just the name like caught my attention. A post, an RFC to add post, as in power on self-test, like this thing that you see on PCs from, I don't know, it's been there forever, the post sequence, right? And so I was like, wait, what does it mean for Zephyr? And it turns out, yeah, someone, it's actually from last week, so it's really, really fresh. But yeah, someone is proposing to standardize a new power on self-test subsystem to basically have hooks like at every, and that's the way I understand it. Fabio, maybe you read it as well, you will correct me, but at every or each initialization level in the kernel, having basically some hooks so that drivers can optionally perform additional tests like sanity checks or like health checks. I don't know, you're booting the driver, like the memory controller, you do maybe some like basic validation of the memory, that kind of stuff. Checked your flash is not corrupted, whatever. And I think some safety standards apparently do require and do sort of like mandate that the system has built-in self-test capabilities, and it's a step towards that. So we will be linking to the pull request. As always, it's like, please, people, chime in. What did you think, Fabio? Did you have a look?
Yeah, I had a look. It seems like it's something designed to simplify having an application that implements the required standard, and it seems fairly complete. So basically, the way I see it is a specialized type of initialization. In fact, it has macro to define functions that have to be called and when they have to be called in a way that is fairly similar to the sysinit, right? When you have the pre-kernel 1, pre-kernel 2, post-kernel application. But then in addition to that, it has some custom shell command to analyze what happened and rerun the test at a certain level. So I guess it's very useful if you need to implement such a feature in your application.
Yeah, that's really nice. The shell command is actually quite interesting because like your system might be booting properly, and yet there might still have been some things or some part of the system that are not in an ideal shape, and you want to know about them. This might not be like critical errors, but yet you want to know about them. And apparently there might be some vendors out there that already have some solutions kind of like similar to this, like the PR links to a Modbus Modus Toolbox safety test library from Infineon, which apparently might be sort of like doing something similar. But yeah, this is really cool, and that's a really well written RFC, request for comments. So yeah, please, folks,
Check it
do
out.
comment.
Great stuff. So we have modules. There's been a few modules that have been added to the list, right?
Yeah, external modules like those libraries, open source projects that people can pull in. I think last week, was it last week? We mentioned Gravel, the GUI toolkit. This will be, you will soon find the documentation in Zephyr proper. And same for this new module from Walid, requests, as in HTTP requests module.
Yeah, not the most insightful name. So if I can say.
Yeah. So sorry, the author could maybe consider calling. I would have called it Z request, but I'm biased.
ZHTTP request. I'm very bad at. I'm not. Can't blame him. I'm very bad at naming.
But it's fine. Like it also makes the point that it's a super. I mean, that tells what it does. It's a library for all things HTTP operations, get, post, put, delete, and also has that shell
command
aspect to it. Yeah, HTTPS support, or TLS rather, I guess, is there. It's cool stuff.
So this is a bit of a mini curl for Zephyr.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, totally. Would be interesting to. Well, actually, like just random thought here. The README doesn't say much about the sort of like the footprint, the overhead. Personally, I think this is the kind of library for which I would love, like, before even trying it, getting a sense of like, hey, am I pulling like 20K of code, or is it lean, or and maybe getting some insights into that could be helpful. But it looks pretty straightforward. So
yeah, it's nice. So I guess this is useful. I mean, it would make sense to link it in your application if you think you may need to have these commands for troubleshooting in the shell. It's like there's more and more microcontroller with a ton of flash available, so leaving the stuff compiled in, even if you don't use it, there's not gonna cause any harm.
The shell command, and also like in your actual code, if this avoids some of the boilerplate to like create your HTTP headers, blah blah blah, and it makes it just one API call. That's something.
Yeah, and there's a bit of work in doing HTTP request, right? Because like I did it for an application I did some time ago. The one I had as a demo at ZDS. It's there are libraries. It's not trivial though. You have to put a bit of in C. You have to put
and you don't. I mean, you're not really adding value. Like you're just
Yeah,
writing boilerplate, and you're like, yeah, I wish it would
yeah.
be simpler.
Especially
So yeah, I
for
think it's a good.
especially for the SSL stuff, which is pretty much required everywhere these days if you want to pull anything from the internet.
Yep. But yeah, no, that's really really cool stuff. Actually, there might be an opportunity to make it a first party library slash like an extension to the existing networking stack. It's nice that it's on the side, but it might actually be Zephyr material there.
Good stuff. You know what else I always have a hard time to writing, figure out how to do proper Doxygen documentation.
Well, and you have people like me who just like chase you like in PRs and are like, hey, this is missing. The oxygen documentation is missing. This is a public API. You should document it.
If only there was a guideline to reference.
What do you mean? Yeah, there is. Now there is. I think this is long overdue. But yeah, like obviously Zephyr has a huge API surface, be it through drivers or in the kernel, etc., etc. And as we add more, it's important that it's well documented. And so far, the way it's worked, it's always been like, hey, I'm gonna. You might have the maintainers spotting the fact that the documentation is missing, and then they would ask you to add documentation that kind of reads similar to the rest of the documentation that's sort of like in the same subsystem. But now there are, just like we have C coding style guidelines in Python and kconfig and device tree, etc. Now you have some proper, and hopefully reasonably complete guidelines to write Doxygen comments. Next step, actually, I'm working on also adding some compliance checks in CI so that when you add new API, if you forget the documentation, well, it will actually block the PR or at least warn you. But I think it's important. Like I guess. Well, the main reason to me is that I wish people, like in an ideal world, you shouldn't have to go and look at the code, like at the actual implementation, to figure out like how and what the thing does. So yes, in some cases, some API like you can really well like imagine from the name what they do, and but sometimes you have no idea like what are the prerequisites and the what should you do about that? Like who's responsible for freeing this buffer that's being passed around and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I think in an ideal code, in an ideal world, the code is so clean and clear that you don't need any documentation for it.
But that's not how it works. Like when you do an API, people don't see the code. They just use yes, it's open. So Zephyr has the it's a double-edged sword, I guess. Like yes, the source is available, so people can always look at the code, but they shouldn't have to. They should write to the black box, right?
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'd rather have an automation telling me that I forgot to document some part of the API than have you tell me that I forgot some bit 2 days after, so that I forgot what I was doing.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to what the impact will be, both good and bad. Maybe to your point, like maybe some people will be unhappy that they have to write more text than they will have to work.
I think it'll be a bit annoying, but it's gonna be good at the end, right? Like anything that gives you a fast feedback loop is gonna be good.
Yeah. But yeah, that's happened this week. While I wasn't busy landing this new set of guidelines, I actually played a bit with. So I have no skin in this game, but I do love what the M5 stack folks do. Generally speaking, they have a new device out there on Kickstarter called the Stack Chan, which is nice. I mean, people, you will have the link. But it's kind of like they call it a desk robot, so a small cube with a screen that you put on your desk, and that has a microphone, speakers, and some AI in it. Like you can actually ask it to do like stuff. Like it's an AI assistant, the way they market it, but it's also, maybe more importantly, it's really cool hardware. Like a bunch of interesting sensors, servo motors, of course, to control, because the head of the thing tilts in many directions. And so I played with it. I'm lucky enough to have one. It's most of that hardware is already supported in Zephyr, except for a few things. One is the touch capacitive touch sensor wasn't supported, so I wrote a driver for that one that I will be contributing. And then the servo motors aren't supported either. And this one was interesting because those servos, I don't remember off the top of my head, but those are servos that you control over UART
No way.
with integrated feedback. So that it's like a smart bus, I would like to say it's called, or servo bus. And so you have a very simple protocol to tell the servo, hey, here's the position I want to set. But you also have the feedback loop that tells you what's the current position of the servo, or you can even sort of like disable the servo and freely move the thing around, and you would get the position. And so I also wrote a driver for that particular UART-based servo protocol, and that reminded me, and that's basically a plug for it, that we have an RFC out there for introducing a new actuator subsystem slash device driver class. And so I think, call to action for people to have a look. Like if you
Review
are
it.
in working on robotics and servo motors, etc., have a look, provide feedback, just like I did this week. Because basically in my case, what I did do is I have this driver that I wrote, and right now the way I wrote it is like it's a so-called MISC driver in Zephyr. It's like nothing effectively, right? Like it doesn't match any existing higher level driver classes, except that it should fit into this
Yeah.
proposed actuator thing, right? And so and the way the RFC is out there right now, it's allowing you to set the position of the so-called actuator. It doesn't necessarily have the feedback. I think it probably should, but it's arguable. Like maybe some people would be like, "Hey, but this is a sensor, right? Like, I mean, you sense the feedback. This is a different device in a sense."
Yeah,
But I think
well,
it should be integrated.
yeah, I'm on the same opinion. And honestly, I liked this proposal. I think I'm gonna give it my spiritual looks good to me approval. So it's been a while since I looked into it. There's been some lengthy discussion from some of the contributor, and I have not been able to keep track of it. But no, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like as you said, turbos are fairly common, especially for like hobby stuff. They're good fun if you're doing teaching with microcontroller, especially with kids. It's good to show them things that move. And as much as I would want to give everybody like a pneumatic manifold with cylinders and air compressor, probably a small RC servo motor is a bit better.
Right. Yeah, and just in general, like it goes beyond just servos. It's meant to be all things actuators, and I'm sure some people listening are from like domains where like they do robotics and like industrial control and whatnot, like linear actuators. God knows what, but please provide feedback because I'm sure folks have some drivers out there, some systems. Like if we are to design and introduce a new API, it needs to be
and
close enough to the actual use cases.
It would be cool to have it before you write your driver, because it sounds like a fairly interesting driver anyway, and it'd be nice to get it.
Yep.
Cool.
But yeah, that's a cool. Back to the M5 stack device. It's really a nice. It's ESP32 based, but yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, I saw the
They're
video.
doing really well on Kickstarter, so that's cool.
Nice.
More servos.
More
No?
servos, and more
Yeah.
servos. We had one more board for robotics application. So we have support for the Citron Maker Pi RP2040, which is board with an RP2040, 2 DC motor controller, a piezo speaker with a physical mute button. I don't know why I decided it was important enough to mention it, but hey, okay. And 4 servo motor channel and 5 groove connectors. So this is another board like the one we mentioned last week from Adafruit that would be cool for props and robotics, this sort of stuff. So yeah, we need an actuator. We need the actuator class. BRK, come on.
Yeah, well, and yeah, all things robotics. I think also one thing I would love to explore myself personally, but I think the community, some community people are working on it as well, is tying Zephyr into the ROS ecosystem, the robot operating system. There's probably some, like, yeah, the more we have in Zephyr to make, to add robotics capabilities as subsystems, etc., the easier it will be for people to assemble like larger systems. Yeah.
Cool. Unrelated pull request. Zephyr can now run under QNX hypervisor. Why?
Yeah, that was really nice to see. Like the way I caught, or the way this one caught my eye, is that when Sobori added and sent this pull request, they basically added a new entry to our vendor prefixes file for BlackBerry, which was like, oh yeah, well, yeah, QNX, of course. But yeah, allows to run. This is basically the board definition plus some documentation and configuration file to enable running Zephyr as a guest OS, as a guest inside a QNX hypervisor VM. So not entirely sure what are the use cases and the applications. So Bori, if you're actually listening to us,
Let
would
us
love,
know.
yeah, or like if people know or are interested, just join us on Discord. Let's continue the conversation there. But that's nice.
I'm always curious to hear why people end up running Zephyr on the application, because this targets ARM64, right? So yeah, it's always interesting to see people running Zephyr on core determined to run a full operating system with memory management and everything. I asked a couple of times at conferences, and I've been told that it's done commonly when you have an FPGA that already has these cores, and you only need one, and you have another one available for your real-time operating system, so you're going to use it. But wow, in an hypervisor, it sounds like an interesting application. I wonder if they're using it on. I think Subur is involved in some of those space stuff. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and I think he's been working also on the whole Virtio stuff and so on. So it's there. Long story short, Soburi, hit us up on Discord. We would love to hear more.
Cool. Okay, we had a few updates on subsystem and drivers. So fairly quickly, new drivers. We had a driver for the Max 31331 RTC chip, but a weird name. So the interesting thing on this one is 65 nanoamp timekeeping current. So if you need to keep track of time for a very long time, you need a discrete chip. This sounds like a really interesting one. I always like this thing. And then also,
is it year 2038 bug free?
I mean, yeah, I think it. I think it's compliant.
That was whatever.
with everything. When did it come out, by the way? Because it must be pretty new. Yeah, I can't tell. Yeah, no, I can't tell. Well, anyway, yeah, good stuff. So I2 CRTC, and also from Maxim, with a driver for the 3210 temperature sensor. This is a temperature sensor with 0.1 Celsius precision, and the cool thing is that it comes in a 0.9 by 0.9 millimeter pitch WLP chip. So yeah, I need a microscope to solder this one. But wow. I absolutely the reason why I'm obsessed with these tiny chips is because my hardware engineering mentor was himself obsessed with miniaturizing everything. So yeah, I love this stuff. So a couple new general purpose sensors.
Yep. And then on the there was a bit of news on the Canvas front in terms of a couple new boards, at least one from Microelectronica that landed with like the good old DB9 connector and a TI transceiver or controller. Like really, yeah, form
Yeah,
factor seems pretty
yeah.
ideal there.
This is a microclick format, right? Which I don't think we see it
Yes.
as often as the Arduino one, but this
Yeah,
is
it's not a board, it's a shield. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, it's a shield, but this is nice and compact, and it uses the TCAN 4550. Most of the CAN bus shield, I think, use the microchip chip. I didn't even realize that TI has one. Same story. It's an SPI CAN FB controller. So yeah, good for adding it to one of the many board that have the microbus shield, which is becoming more and more popular. I kind of like it. It's nice and compact. And still on the CAN bus front, the maintainer was busy adding a can dump subcommand to the shell, which I really like because this is something that we didn't have. Up to this point, if you have a board with CAN bus and you just for troubleshooting reason want to see what traffic is happening, you have to write some code. But no, now there is a shell command, and this takes over the UART and dump all of the traffic until you hit Control C, which is not a super simple thing to implement. So if you look at the code, there's actually all the stuff for hooking up to the serial port and then releasing it back when you hit Control C. So good command, but also a good reference design if you need to do a shell command that stays on until you hit Control C, as you would expect if it was a normal Linux command.
Right, cool. And I don't know much about CAN, but like, does it dump like everything, or you have the ability to filter as well?
The command dumps everything by default. I didn't check if you can put a filter. The way CAN bus works is that normally you have what is called an acceptance filter, which is I think it's typically a bit mask of
Right.
what you want from the address, and the address of CAN bus frame is a weird thing. It's like 11 or 29 bits,
Okay.
but I think that this one dumps everything. So obviously, if you have a bus with like 1 megabit of traffic full on, this is gonna destroy your device.
Yeah, you're gonna jump into interesting like buffer issues and
Yeah.
so on with the shell itself. But yeah, speaking of the shell, this kind of reminded me that and I actually spotted a few pull requests this week that could have made more use of that. But we have a few months back, a new macro was introduced to help people write better docs again for this time for the shell help commands. It helps sort of like structure things better. And I was thinking that an interesting next step would be to turn this now slightly better structured code for the help commands into online documentation, maybe. I don't know what people think or what you think, Fabio, but we more or less have the tooling. We could, I don't know, like in native sim or something, we could just dump all the help commands of all the modules we can like enable at the same time and turn that into markdown or rather restructured text, whatever, and make some kind of interactive online help for the shells. I mean, of course, some commands are dynamic and whatever, but I don't know. I feel like it could be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. It sounds like something that would break CI. More often
Uh,
than not.
Probably, and or that would be just ever so slightly incomplete or inaccurate. That it kind of like defeats the purpose. Like if it allows you to discover all the commands, but a few that are actually not showing up, then that's not ideal. But I don't know. Like I always feel like we have like literally like hundreds of commands and like really nice helpers and so on, but they're just hidden in the code. Basically, you don't even. I mean, sometimes people take time to manually
Yeah.
write documentation that shows up in the docs,
Mm.
but
Yeah,
most of the time,
yeah.
they're
I'm usually fine reading the code, but I could be convinced that this is a pretty good idea, actually, mainly because I've seen many, even in our downstream application, one of the first thing we do when we run out of Flash is to compile out all of the help for the shell commands. So having
yeah, and then yeah.
Yeah, having that, yeah, then you don't know how to run the commands. Like it's
Yeah,
really
I see what you mean. Like you still have the commands, but you remove all
yeah.
the flash space for the text. Yeah, yeah.
So if you were to build a page with the reference with a dump of all of the help text for all the commands that is conveniently accessible, like a proper web page that loads quickly, what would kids say this day? With a great UX.
All right, I'll give it another try. I mean, if you seem convinced, but I would love to hear from others. This is my shameless plug or my just a ploy to get you folks to yeah, comment on YouTube or on Discord. Um, let us know. Let me know what you think. But yeah, more docs is always good, and more commands
More
is always good.
commands.
Another command that was added was not sure why it was missing, but
Yeah.
PWM shell now allows to get the number of cycles per second a given PWM channel
Yeah.
is set to. So yeah.
Quite useful. Quite often when you set the PWM frequency, you don't get the exact one. So I think with this one you can get the exact frequency that the PWM controller think it's using, unless you have a bug. Like the proper one, you need an oscilloscope. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm also surprised that this was missing. But yeah, it's here now.
Yeah, cool stuff. On the, I mean, this one is
Wi-Fi.
all yours. You spotted some interesting Wi-Fi
The
stuff going on.
the folks at Nordic have been busy. So first thing, somebody opened a monster pull request with 25 commits or something, adding Wi-Fi P2P support. So this was mainly built on their own device, the NRF. Oh God, I can't remember 7702, something like that. NRF 7000 series anyway. This is a discrete Wi-Fi chip. Seems to be very complete. I think they're running a port of host B for it. Yeah. Anyway, it seems like they add the support for Wi-Fi P2P, which I don't
But
know.
is this like something that was added? Like, will this work for all Wi-Fi chips, or
Uh,
is this like?
well, so yeah, you have to have support for the specific chip. So this is obviously going to work for the Nordic one. I don't know if it's going to work for other chips, but I don't see why it wouldn't. This is something, the standard has been around for a very long time. I don't think it's been adopted that much. So basically, this allows you to create an extra visual interface on your Wi-Fi controller and have a connection with another Wi-Fi interface. It's a bit weird, but like it probably works on your laptop if you use it. Like the interesting thing, many years ago there was a proposal from a company to run Bluetooth over Wi-Fi with Wi-Fi P2P. I actually bought a Wi-Fi mouse that was working like that.
Wow.
You have the Wi-Fi interface on your laptop. It creates an access point, the mouse connects to it, and then it does transport of Bluetooth over Wi-Fi. Mad thing. Osmo devices, it was called, and Atmel bought it and it disappeared. Anyway, yeah, this can be useful. The main thing is your device is going to be connected to an access point, but you may want a management interface when you can connect to your device directly. And this would be a good way of doing it if it works properly. The problem I had when I was playing with this thing many years ago is that it wasn't quite working properly because it wasn't widely adopted.
Yeah.
But there's support now, so yeah,
Yeah, I
hopefully.
think it's even like don't we have this on phones even?
Absolutely. I
Right.
think
Yeah.
I think on Android, if you do, I think Android Auto uses it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think when you
Mhm.
connect via Android Auto to send the video data via like wirelessly, first it established the connection via Bluetooth, and then it established the data connection via Wi-Fi P2P. Pretty sure about that.
Nice.
I'm not.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Maybe some cool demos for Zephyr
I
4.4
I I
release.
I think this is really cool, to be honest. Like, I
Yeah.
would love to see more of this. Yeah. But still from Nordic, after that, they sneaked in another pull request for a new board. This is the NRF 7120. And it's actually for the development kit for an NRF 7120 DK, but this is an engineering sample or whatever they call it. So it looks like an unreleased SoC. I presume they're going to announce it soon. There's some documentation out, but not a lot of it. But what we do see from what the merge is that it's an M33 plus all of their extra flipper core or whatever it is, 4 meg of flash, and it's on the 7 family. So this is going to be a system on a chip with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, because Nordic, in a single package. It looks like. So very interesting competitor to the ESP32 primarily, and the other one we have. I'm looking forward to that because Nordic. I like Nordic shit. They're nice to work with.
Nice, cool. What else? Maybe another thing that I think we merged, right? The OTP subsystem. Did you want to talk to this one?
Yeah, I merged this one while I was taking
OTP as
notes.
in
One-time programmable,
right?
which I'm not sure it's for one-time. It's not strictly for one-time programmable things, but maybe it is. I don't know. We already determined that Flash is not Flash, so OTP may not be one-time.
Right. Anyways, that goes hand in hand with the non-volatile memory newish subsystem, right?
Yeah, and this is from the ST folks. So it's only the subsystem for now. I think this is going to be used to define areas for holding stuff like MAC address and other things that you normally program during the manufacturing of the device, but that you may want to change during runtime. Not clear to me if they're going to use it for like the boot option pins on STM32, but I think they are. Just they are a bit. There is code to change them right now, but it's a bit of a pain to use. So it's something to keep an eye on. More driver on the OTP subsystem.
Nice. And I was just looking at the pull request. It looks like the Doxygen for it is spot on. So
perfect. Well,
that's cool. Yeah, what else? I think we're sort of like reaching the end. One thing that I think is news since last time we recorded last week, FOSDEM is coming up. That is not news, but folks in Europe will likely converge towards Brussels at the end of the month. But one thing that got added on the Friday before FOSDEM, so on January the 30th, is that in Brussels downtown, there will also be a Zephyr meetup all Friday afternoon. So we will put the link in the notes. You can already RSVP for that one and potentially also apply to give a talk, a short update on whatever cool topic you've been working on. I think both you and I, Fabio, will be presenting. But yeah, it's going to be like, I think it's going on from 2 to 6 in the afternoon or something. So we have plenty of time and space for lots of cool discussions. So yeah, add this to your calendars. Speaking of which, I guess like Fabio, we need to figure out like what we do at FOSDEM podcast wise. Like, do we do like a live episode? Like,
I first.
Because I mean, we won't record on Friday. We will be at the meetup. So like, there's that.
I mean, yeah, I foresee a microphone in a hotel room.
Yes, me too. As long as we don't do it in a pub, because like
that's a great idea. Yeah, at the Delirium, that would be great like, for sound quality.
Not, but yes. All right, that's it for this week. It was great to catch up, Fabio, and folks. Join us on Discord. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will be back soon.
Bye bye.
Cheers.